Here's your pre-calc practice quiz answer video. I'll take credit card information after the video is over. Looking at the first one, we need to make sure that we identify the max and the min of this function. The maximum value, the maximum y, is 4. The minimum is -2. And that'll help with finding A, B, C, and D. Actually, just A and D, but that's a start. So amplitude is max minus min divided by 2. That's 6 divided by 2. Amplitude is 3. The midline, equation of the midline, is max plus min divided by 2. And that's 2 divided by 2. That's y equals 1. Period is the horizontal distance that it takes to repeat a cycle. Essentially, horizontal distance of one cycle of this sinusoid. So in this case, I could look at like a minimum to a minimum, or a maximum to a maximum, or midline increasing to midline increasing. The easiest one is probably the minimum to a minimum, and that looks like from 120 to 0. So the period will be 120 degrees. And that I see from 60 to 180 from max to max. B, in terms of degrees, has a formula. B is 360 divided by 120, the period. So B equals 360 divided by period when we're looking at degrees. And that means B equals 3, which says that we've got 3 cycles within the 360 degrees. Last but not least, looking at phase displacement for cosine, having eraser issues. Phase displacement is our horizontal translation, or horizontal slide, and cosine, what I'm looking for is the reference point. Cosine starts at the max, sine starts on the midline. So I'm looking for the first maximum to the right or to the left, and it looks like this would be the easiest one to identify. And so from the y-intercept, that's how far it's going to slide. And according to the scale, 60 degrees. So C is positive 60 degrees. On the next question, question 6, I am going to determine A, B, and D, because those will be the same for both sine and cosine. Amplitude, period, midline, or vertical translation. C then is going to be different for either one. So in terms of this, max is 5. That's the maximum y value. Minimum is 1. So A is max minus min over 2. A will be 2. D is max plus min divided by 2. Three. B, and now in this case, I am not in degrees. There's no degree symbol. The numbers are small. It should be labeled. It'll be even more clear. Should have said X here. So we've got radian is our unit here. So I'm looking at 2 pi over period will be B. And the period is nicely marked from 3 to 13 from this max to max. So from 3 to 13, that's 13 minus 3. The horizontal distance of a cycle is 10 units. So that's going to be 2 pi over 10, or pi over 5. So, as I'm writing these functions, I'm going to let's put D at the end, so I'm going to do 2 sine pi over 5 x minus whatever c is plus 3, and 2 cosine pi over 5 x minus plus 3. So let's start with sine. Sine starts on the midline and increasing. So the midline is at y equals 3, and there's 2 points given. And the second one's a distractor because the function is decreasing at this point. That's not my critical point. That's not my reference point starting on the midline. But this one is. And so this function moved right 0.5. Cosine, the maximum is my reference point. And so that first maximum is at x equals 3. That means it moved right 3. Last question. Remember to graph the left side of the equation and graph the right side of the equation. X indicates radian mode. Then look for the first 2 solutions to the right of the y-axis, and so those are x values right there. So x equals 0.121 and x equals 0.664. Those are the first 2 solutions. And so the next challenge is to find all the solutions. All the solutions means we're adding period n, meaning we're adding these horizontal lengths until the next cycle, until the next solution. So we need to determine what the period is. Using this data here, pi over 8, 2, and 5 pi over 8, 2 is one way to do that. I can look at the period distance. I can say, okay, well, it goes from the max is 5 pi over 8 minus pi over 8. That's 4 pi over 8. That's pi over 2 would be the period. Or you could use the b value here. So I could say period equals 2 pi over b over 4, which is pi over 2. So that means that every distance of pi over 2 will give us a solution. So we add pi over 2n plus pi over 2n, and n represents any number of cycles. It could be 1 cycle, n could be 2, so 2 cycles down the road. It could be negative, so it could go to the left. Okay? Hopefully you're doing great on this. Or now, you're feeling more confident.